Hello there. Uh, Anybody that wants to join, happy to see you. I imagine most of you are going to be from what's left of Twitter/X. And I don't have a guest today. I just wanted to take some time and uh, talk with everyone about the goings on that are going on. I've been having a lot of thoughts since the election, the incredible mass exodus from Twitter, the move to Blue Sky, and so on. And I think if you haven't if you haven't watched my my whiteboard video on the move to Blue Sky and you're thinking about it, please watch that before you do move to it. It's my pinned tweet because if you delete your account first and then move, it's going to make it harder for you to find the same audience that you have right now. But I think I'm going to stick around a little bit on Twitter, but mostly I'm going to be on Blue Sky. And a lot of that is that the environment here has just become way too toxic since Elon has gotten worse and worse, and also the engagement rate here is nothing compared to like I don't know the last time you went to Blue Sky, but Blue Sky is so much better right now. Not just in terms of the quality of engagement, which is much better, but also in terms of just the number of engagement. But that's not the only thing I wanted to talk about. I'm just letting you guys know you probably won't see me as much on Twitter as you have in the past. But you can still find me on Blue Sky. My name is still the same. It's still Machine Pun Kelly, still at Kelly Scaletta. But wanted to talk more about like just moving forward as a resistance or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I've ever liked the word resistance because it's, and I think what we're doing is more than just resisting. Progressives don't resist, they advance. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to advance. But I've been wondering why we've lost the election, and of course there's like so many answers to that, and I don't think there's one single reason. But I think there's something like what is it that has led people that are really were normal people to become so hateful and resentful, and that like the whole MAGA thing appeals to them. And at some point, I don't know, maybe we've got a situation where we tend to talk about things, liberals tend to talk about things in terms of politics because they're political, and the MAGAs see us as talking at them rather than talking to them. And so that becomes a turnoff, and they don't want to hear what we have to say because they feel yelled at, they feel denigrated, they feel put down. And of course, like there's a lot of that going the other way too, but they don't see that. And my questions that I've been asking myself is like, how do we not blame? How do we solve? It's so much easier to tear something down than to build something up. And it's even harder to rebuild something than to build something. And so like how do we move forward? How do we advance? And the thing I keep thinking about is we need to be seen as people too, in a previous job I had, I was a trainer, and a lot of the people that were being trained were English teachers. I was teaching technical writing. And so these, like a lot of people, they would change their profession. And a lot of them were English teachers, and they were actually really, really good at the job because it required a lot of the same skill set, like knowing grammar, but also being very detail oriented and all of that kind of thing. And I was talking to this teacher one time. She was an English teacher, and she was, I wouldn't say, actually, she was probably more like a conservative Democrat than a Republican, but she was a fairly conservative person. She wasn't like uh, a liberal. She was a Gen X, age person, and she got out because I can't remember what the book was, but there was like this. It was a relatively conservative book that got objected to by the Moms for Liberty or whatever. And we're in Texas, and it got too hard for her. She could not even like come up with a curriculum that would explain, without somebody complaining about it. Like either the liberals would complain about it, the conservatives would complain about it. It was like nothing. You couldn't even come up with a like go read Tom Sawyer, an American classic, and it was somebody would object to it, and it just made me realize like this culture that we have, and a lot of this culture is spearheaded by people that are trying to be divisive, but it makes where they make teachers into like they're just like rubbing their hands and trying to figure out how they can turn your kids into gays and trans people, and they're going to catch trans cooties or whatever. Like all of that kind of stuff is like to the magas, that's real. That's like they've been convinced of that's who they are. And there is no amount of talking to them about, oh no, you can't get to a fact check and just say, oh, there aren't any actual surgeries done, because that fear has been put in them. And like it's like that fear is operating in every decision they make when it comes to political decision. Fear of immigrants, fear of academia, fear of elites, fear of government, fear of everything. They're just afraid. And like I was taught, there was, if you listen to my previous interview, he was saying, the guy was saying that you're 7 times I think his name was Steve, you're 7 times as likely to operate out of fear as you are anything else. Like once that fight or flight kicks in, you're not like that becomes your motive for everything, is like you're afraid. And so I realized we cannot talk to people rationally while they're afraid. If somebody's house is burning down and they're running around the house, you can't say, don't worry about the painting, or whatever, like, or they're doing something stupid because they're acting crazy because they're afraid, and then you have to pull them out of the house and calm them down before they can start acting rationally again. And I feel like that is what we need to do. We need to calm people down. We need to alleviate their fears. We need to bring them to a calm place before we can, speak to them logically about things. And how do we do that? How do we get them to a calm place? And one way, and if you're talking at them, if you're yelling at them, like one time my wife was, like a snake had gotten in the house and she was freaking out, which obviously, why wouldn't she? And it wasn't until the snake was gone that she was able to act rationally. I won't go into the details, but once the snake was gone, she was fine. You need to get rid of the snake before you can have the conversation. And so how do we do that? How do we get rid of this metaphorical snake? Is by having them, like, having real conversations with real people. So one thing I want to start doing is like, with the podcasts and with this show, they're always, like there's always the guests are always, like experts and stuff like that. And there will certainly be a place for that. I was thinking, what if we had a round table with just teachers? If I had a round table with like 3 or 4 teachers and they just told their stories like this one teacher had, and they were just people, they weren't with their little, I'm going to turn your daughter into a son and your son into a daughter, like what once people can interact or see real teachers interact without an agenda, you can calm them down. And then once they're calm, then you can say, like, this is not a thing, you know? It's not a thing. Teachers aren't turning people into your kids into trans. And then once they can start hearing that, I just, we need to break cognitive dissonance, and I feel like that's like the finger in the dike. Um, like once somebody has one question, they really, really actually question one thing. I have one follower on Twitter, and he was a MAGA follower, and he was like one of those ones where you feel like there could be a hope here. And so, like we talked, and then he had this realization. He was like, Donald Trump was talking about how Congo is emptying out their prisons, and so he like Googled it and to see if Congo's prisons had been emptied, and he's like that, I mean, it was too ridiculous for him. He was like, no, no, no. But and then he's like, no, they're not emptying out their prisons and sending them to the United States southern border. And it's like once that thread broke, all the rest of the thread started to break. It was like easier. It was started to go, oh, maybe the election wasn't stolen. And so what I've been thinking is if we can bring people to a calm place and be identified as people in a totally non-political way, like when I say like I want to talk to teachers just about what is your day like, what is your job like, what is this like to you when you have to like go through and nurture this reading. Like I cannot think of any worse job right now than being a teacher, honestly. Like you work you work for free, like half your time is donated. You actually have to pay money. Like I have a follower that I'm always trying to help her find stuff for her kids because she's in an underfunded classroom and they don't even have enough for crayons and stuff. And so she puts together these wish lists on Amazon, and like that's what a teacher is right now. Teachers are too busy trying to figure out how to get crayons for their kids than they are worrying about, like trying to convert somebody's kid to trans or something. But like, if I just want to have a conversation with teachers, and then, like if people could just see, oh wow, these people are really, they're just working, they're just doing their job and trying to help kids learn. That's all they're doing. They're not terrible people. And then that can like start alleviating some things and start making things more open. So yeah, like I want to talk to teachers. I want to talk to nurses. Like I think about, or even like just medical techs that had to work during COVID and see like how they think about like making RFK Jr. Like how is that going to affect their jobs? I had Dr. Ding on my show, and he was talking about measles and how measles doesn't like I did not know this. Maybe you know this, but I did not know this. Like, if you get measles, it like wipes out your data bank of every disease you've ever gotten. Like how you get a disease and then it comes back later, but your body already knows how to fight it because it's in the cell's memory bank. Yeah, well, measles wipes out that memory bank. So, like, that's terrifying, right? Like, you could get measles and lose your immunity to everything, and they're all about natural immunity. But, this can wipe out all of your natural immunity to everything. It's like kind of like AIDS in that way. So, I want to talk to them. I want to talk to them about, instead of like addressing, there's this massive conspiracy by the medical and pharma industry to, make, like all the crazy COVID conspiracies. Why If you had to just sit and talk to a room full of people that are trying to treat COVID patients, they have no power, no authority over anything. They're not part of any conspiracy. They're just trying to go and they're like literally risking their lives to save lives. And then they get treated like vermin, you know? What if they just were in a room talking about what they went through? Like, and so like put the humanity back in the conversation because I think that they, even like after the election, have you noticed that like people are saying, well, I'm sorry, you're not invited to come over for Thanksgiving dinner anymore. They're cutting magus out of their lives and they're like, I can't believe you would do this over just politics. And it's like when they say that, they're admitting it's always just been politics to them. They don't really think this stuff. They don't really think that, people are trying to convert their kids into trans or whatever. It's just politics. But now it's just politics because the election's over and there's no more fear. They're not afraid anymore. So I don't know if I'm rambling or if I'm making sense, but I feel like we need to get people to a point where they're calm enough that we can talk to them. And I think that the way we can calm their fears is by having, like being presented as real and actual people. So like this is what I'm hoping for is I want to have conversations with nurses, with medical technicians, with teachers, with librarians, with people that live day-to-day lives. I want to talk to asylum lawyers. I want to talk to asylum seekers. I would love to sit down with like 5 asylum seekers and hear their stories. Why are you seeking asylum? Um, I did talk to some asylum lawyers. I talked to an asylum lawyer that but this wasn't for an interview. This was before that. But he had a client that she had 2 sons. And the older son was being recruited to join a gang. He didn't join. They killed the older son. At the funeral, she's sitting there next to her younger son. And um they have these like I can't remember the word for them, but like these little garage grocery stores where you sell produce out of your grocery store. This was like one of the triangle countries. I forget which one, but anyway, they came to the funeral and they sat behind her. The gang that killed her son came to the funeral, sat behind her, and told her your taxes went up 20%. They would tax the grocery store. She said your taxes went up 20% and he's ours in 2 years or something like that. And then they said if you don't do it, and while she's at her older son's funeral, they do the finger gun thing and they point it at her younger son's head. Just saying if she doesn't do this, they're going to kill her younger son too. So she goes home, grabs whatever she can, and takes her younger son with her. They walk across Mexico and they seek asylum. And, when I hear people say, oh, they don't have a credible fear, like when they just dismiss asylum seekers out of hand. They don't have a credible fear. Do you want to tell me that lady didn't have a credible fear? They're not all just here seeking a better life. They didn't walk across half a friggin' continent because they wanted a better life, because they wanted to steal your free healthcare or whatever. Like that's not why, right? But the fear is operating in them. Like in the magas, the fear, the real fear. Oh, they're sending us our rapists and murderers and stuff, and they're afraid of these women and children. And because like they're being told to be afraid. It's easy to make people afraid. It's really easy to make people afraid. It's not so easy to make people calm their fears. So how can we do that? We can have them sit down we have like 5 asylum seekers in a room telling their stories, you think anybody's gonna listen to that woman tell her story and say that she's not, that she doesn't have a credible fear? So anyway, I wanna talk to asylum seekers, and I wanna talk to asylum lawyers. I would love to have talk to asylum officers, but I tried to interview one, and I was told that, they can't do that. They're not allowed to do, these kind of things. But, anyway, and I wanna talk to all kinds of people. I wanna talk to people that do different things, and so this is what I want from you, if you're willing. Let me know if you wanna tell your story. If you have a story, let me know, and I will try and get you on to tell the story. If you're and I think we still need to talk to experts too. Like, I've got coming up. I've scheduled an abortion lawyer is going to tell me her story, or not an abortion lawyer, an abortion provider, an abortion doctor. She's going to come on and tell me, you know, talk about what her experience is, um, and like that's a side of the story we don't hear. I already had a father on, Ryan. Uh, I had a dad on that nearly lost his wife, and when she miscarried their second child, and I just this story he told where got he's got his wife. He's trying to keep conscious in the truck because she'd already passed out on the bathroom floor. So he's screaming at her to stay awake as he's driving as fast as he can to the emergency room. And his 1-year-old daughter is in the back, terrified because daddy keeps yelling at mommy. These are real stories of real people. And I feel like touch that man's heart and tell me abortion is just politics to him. You know, we need to have conversations as people. They see us, that one meme they love to share where, like there's all the drag show in front of the children at Mardi Gras or whatever. Like that's who they see us as. They see us as people who drag their children to watch men perform as naked women or whatever, like I don't even know what that thing is. I don't care, but it's not something I would do. It's not something I would encourage, but it has nothing to do with reality. And but that's their view of us. And so the only way we can start reaching them is for them to see us as people. And the way for them to see us as people is to show them who we are as people. And so whoever, like if you have a story, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're an orderly, if you're I don't know, like if you're a DoorDash driver, like I feel so bad for the DoorDash drivers during the pandemic. I had one that like I'd always leave like a $25 tip, and I had one that she was like, "Oh, this is the first tip I've gotten today," and I'm like, "You're running around risking your life, and people won't even give you a tip?" Like I couldn't believe that. Anyway, um, but that's where I want to. Like, my plan going forward is I want to do three things. One, I want to interview experts. I still want to interview experts because I think expertise matters. Like, because you do have to cut through the nonsense, and but I want to do it in a different way, like not in a way where it's like directly like a full frontal attack on a political opinion, right? Like I want to talk to I have a climate change scientist coming on to talk about climate change, but not in the scope of like where it's like left right politics. Just climate change is real and we really need to do something about it, right? And but we need to understand it first. Like like there's such a weird, like, oh well, things change over time. This has happened before. No, it hasn't happened before. This has not happened before. This is not like, but we, like to have an actual scientist that can explain why this is not what just happened before. I had a another guest on, Steve Schwab, who, you know, he's got a PhD from Wharton, and he's got all this experience in healthcare. Made me rethink about how I think about healthcare and universe. Like, he's for universal healthcare, but how we go about doing it, he had some really good thoughts that made me, like rethink some things that I had strong opinions on. Um, I just, like I want to talk to people. I want to learn from the experts, and I want to, like share that knowledge, but not doesn't always have to be just policy related, because I feel like that's where the mainstream media has gotten onto some of these things. Is it's like everything has to be viewed through a prism of policy, and so then you're either for it or against it, and so you're watching it or listening to it, and you're already for or against it, and that colors how you're going to hear it. Like, I want to have it in a non-political spectrum, these conversations, so that you can actually hear what's being said rather than already have a biased opinion about what is going to be said, if that makes sense. Um, so I want to have that. And then I also want to have like these kind of roundtable discussions with like 4 or 5 people at the same time. Like, I would love to sit down with 4 teachers, different, teachers of different age groups or different ages or whatever, and just listen to you tell your stories. Like, I think that could do wonders for solving so many of the problems that we have with, like book bannings and stuff like that. Because teachers are like, to me, teachers are the biggest heroes this country has. And we treat them like crap. We don't pay them. We overwork them. And then the moment something goes wrong, we blame them for everything. Like, come on. Like, I have never met a teacher I didn't like, except for the one that I had a high school math teacher that we won't talk about. But anyway, teachers are not in it for the money. They're not in it for the power. They're in it because they love our kids. But they need to be like, people need to be reminded that's what they are. They're not these like terrible, terrible people. Um, so anyway, if you would like to be a guest on my show, and you have a story to tell, let me know. Either, just hit me up in a DM on Twitter or on Blue Sky, leave a comment on YouTube. Um, I want to hear your stories. If you're an expert, I want to hear, and an expert on like a lot of things. Like, we need to know about climate science. We need to know about immigration law. We need to know about um, immunizations and um, like all of these things that drive our political conversation, but that we are basing it either on just policy or ignorance. Like, to have a foundation of knowledge from which to draw on, and then based on that we decide what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Like when it comes to climate change, I think there's a credible argument that people make. Well, like, what if it takes more money to uses more resources for this battery uh, than it costs for gas? What if it's a net loss to actually use an electric car? I think that's a valid question. And it's one we need to have answered. But I think there's probably also a valid answer. And I would also say, basing what we know on what we know right now is no reason to not continue to explore and figure out, is there a better, more efficient way to get these batteries? Um, so anyway, let me know if you would like to be on my show. Just let me know what you do, and why you want to be on it. I just I want us to start going to start representing ourselves as people and not as like evil little liberals trying to like take over the world. We're not elitists. Like I like I wish I could get a show of hands, but like how many of you consider yourself elitist? Donald Trump's not an elitist. The guy that was born into like a billionaire lifestyle that never had to earn anything in his life, he's not an elitist. But me, sitting in my recliner chair, I'm an elitist for some reason. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, just leave a comment, send me a message, DM me. Just let me know, and I would love to tell your story. And so that's the first part is one, like just with these videos, I want to get the story. I want to get the stories of everyday people, and I want to get the insight of experts. But then what I want to do is, if some of you have seen some of my whiteboard videos, I think those have been a good way of in a non-antagonistic way helping people learn and see things. And so like as I learn things from these experts, then I will create whiteboard videos that you could then share with the people or and as an instructional way where it's not too confrontational. Because again, like we need to take people. MAGAs are operating out of fear, and I like that is that like to me that is like that's my epiphany out of all of this is they were terrified of immigrants 2 weeks ago. Now it's just politics. What happened? What changed? Did the immigrants all go away? No. Trump won the election. That's the only thing that changed. And so now they're calm. Now it's just politics. They went from they were so terrified that they were ready to burn down the country. And now it's like just politics. So that's my realization. We have to talk to them while they're calm, and we have to keep them calm. It's just that they operate out of fear, and I mean, I'm sorry if that offends any MAGAs, but it's the truth, everything. And it's not just fear, it's a rational fear. There's polling that shows that everything that they voted for, all the reasons they voted, they were voting out of fear, immigration, the fear of immigrants, the fear of inflation, the fear of economic collapse, all these things that were so important to them that they were afraid of. They were also 100% wrong on. Like they thought that inflation was still high. It's down to 2.4%. It's lower than it's lower than average now. Real wages are up under Biden. People are making more money after inflation, adjusted for inflation, than they were before Biden got elected. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. The unemployment rate is been consistently at full employment for the last 3 years, where we don't have an employment problem. That's a fact. But they voted against the facts because they were told that they were to be afraid. They were told by an entire news network every day that the economy was going to go into a recession. And it never did. We never went into a recession. But they were afraid of one. And the only difference between November 1st and today is that we had the election. The economy did not get better, but now they're not afraid. So, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, now you can talk to them. It's just politics. So, anyway, first thing is to calm them and make them rational, and then give them the equipment to learn and to say, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe deporting 11 million immigrants is not such a good idea." Like, they're not gonna think deporting 11 million immigrants is a good idea, is not a good idea, as long as they're afraid of the illegal immigrants. It's like only until you can assure them that those illegal immigrants aren't scary, that they're gonna think about it. So, um, that's kind of what I wanted to say. This is my the only reason I wanted to come on. And also, I do want to say to all my Twitter people that, well, I hope you come on to Blue Sky. A lot of you already are, but we've been through some hell together, and but that doesn't mean we have to stay in hell. I'm going to start referring to Twitter as my ex, if you know what I mean. Ex. I feel jaded. I feel like I say Twitter. I did not leave Twitter. X left me. Elon took over and turned the place into a hellscape. And if you haven't been to Blue Sky yet, or if you were there like a year ago, like I joined a year ago, and it was like kind of empty. But I mean, now it's like, first of all, it's in terms of engagement. I have done tests where, like, I'll tweet and post the same thing on both sites at the same time, and I'll get 3 times as much engagement on Blue Sky as I do on Twitter. Even though, while I've been my followers have gone up rapidly on Blue Sky, I still have twice as many followers on Twitter as I do on Blue Sky, but I'll get 3 times as much as engagement on Blue Sky. So if the reason you haven't left is because you just don't want the engagement, or you don't want to lose the engagement, um, don't worry about that. If the reason you don't want to leave is because uh, you've got your community here, um, watch my pin video. Like, you can definitely keep most of your community. I've got like almost all the people that I got to know on Twitter and are now with me on Blue Sky. I've connected with them on Blue Sky. Watch my video, and just trust me, you will be grateful you did. But if you don't, I will still be popping up here every now and then. So, uh, but yeah, just thank you for being my follower and my friend. I'll see you around, but I think I think from now on, my broadcasts are just going to be on YouTube. I just, it's sad because, like, the one right now, I've got long COVID and I can't work, so the only income I've gotten is from Twitter. But I don't even want that anymore. It's just, you got when Elon Musk said that the economy is going to get worse before it gets better, I don't think another human being has ever said anything to piss me off that much. Like, it's going to get worse before they get better. Really, Elon? Do you think you're going to have to, like, maybe eat one less cookie a month or something? Like, it's going to really hurt you, right? Right? You're going to have a different bank account balance. And you're sitting there talking to real people with real lives who are going to be destroyed. And you're telling them, oh, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Fuck you, Elon. Sorry. That one really pissed me off. That pissed me off. That is like, anyway. But now he's running the world, right? So anyway, I don't even want his money anymore. I'd rather have no income at all than have his income. So I'm going to stick around a little bit just to help people make the transition if they want to. Like, I'm just like, you know, back when I was in high school, met this guy named Al Jazinka. He was he was at the embassy in Vietnam when like when they had to clear out the embassy, and he was the guy that he was there, and they were until the last helicopter went out. He was the last guy on the last helicopter to leave the embassy from Vietnam. So that's why I am here. You know, I'm just here to help. Everybody wants to get out, get out. But I'm like I'm done with Twitter. It's toxic. It's you know the culture has just been overrun by hateful trolls, bots, magas, and misanthropes. Like I can't deal with it anymore. But like I was I was kind of joking on Blue Sky until I realized it wasn't a joke. But if you've watched The Handmaid's Tale and when her husband gets to Canada for the first time, um, and he goes through like this almost kind of culture shock of like, whoa, what's so like people are eating food and stuff, and that's how I felt going when I felt like I moved from Gilead to Canada, and then like I was the asylum seeker. So anyway, I am going to stay in Twitter a little bit just to help people find their way out. If you haven't gone to Blue Sky yet, and I love that I am using Elon's platform to tell people that the other platform is better and that they should just get out of here, come fly the blue sky. But I hope to see you over there. If not, I'll still be here for a little while. And that's I got some comments here, but I don't see any questions. I do have some people agreeing that blue sky is way better. Wow. Sorry, I didn't have my yep, okay. This is it is a good I'm just so happy about that. I would love it if Elon just had to eat $44 billion because of his hubris. But anyway, I will see you on Blue Sky. I will see you on YouTube. And thanks for watching.